Hi, my name is Tree. I am a bartender at Stonewall Inn from 1969 till 2024. But there was an interlude after they raided the bar where they could not open a gay bar in that building until it loses its reputation. So over the years, it became a bagel nosh, a Chinese restaurant, a luggage store, clothing store, nail salon. Then it became a restaurant called New Jimmy's, and then it became Stonewall. And after Stonewall, the new owners changed it to the original name, Stonewall Inn.
And that's what it is now.
It's Stonewall Inn now. It was once Bonnie Stonewall Inn, and he had on Sundays they served drinks in teacups, and they called it a tea dance, and that's where the expression tea dance came from in the 30s and 40s.
Well, Bonnie Stonewall Inn originated based on a book that was about lesbians, which I understand that the original Stonewall Inn way back when was also, at least in some respect, lesbian.
See, that I knew it was a restaurant called Bonnie Stonewall Inn. It burnt down.
Yes.
And then Uncle Syndicate came in, Vinnie the Chin, Harry the Horse, and the boys, painted the floors, walls, ceilings, everything black, never even covering the burn holes or the hanging wires, and opened it up as the Stonewall.
Right. So, how old were you when you started going to gay bars?
16, 17. I went to my first gay bar was a bar called Bally Davy. It was on 86th and Broadway. A guy in my neighborhood, George Oliver, decided to take us there. And we walked in the door and we scared as hell because there was a cop there and a sign in the window, this is a rated premise. And all they served was juices and sodas. And we went there every 3 weeks. And we used to watch people go in the back room. And I'd say, oh my God, one of these days I'm going to go back there. And I did. And I came out and everybody said, what are they doing back there? I went, dancing. So they had to drag me out of there because remember, I was on American Bandstand and when I was so I looked because I loved to dance. And every time the cop would get up and walk towards the room, they'd turn a button, hit a button, and the lights would go on. Everybody stopped dancing. He'd walk around the room, go sit down, the lights would go off. And at the end of the night, I was watching them. They gave him a brown paper bag. And years later, we found out it was all money. That he never noticed what was going on. And that was the first place I ever went that was catering to gay people. And then we discovered the May the Call Club, the 515. A club called Club 50 in the 70s was mentioned in the movie I watched the other day, the Benny Goodman story. He says, we're going to New York and play the Club 50. And that became a big gay bar in the 70s.
There were many transitions in your lifetime for the LGBTQ community.
Oh, I went through everything, yeah.
But in those early years, people were very closeted on the outside of the bars.
Oh, yeah. Not everybody. There were a lot of people that everybody knew were gay, their families and everything. But there were so many, we'd go to a bar like Stonewall or the May and there was a guy looking at me. And I got nervous because he looked like a big guy that wanted to beat me up, not dance with me, because he couldn't be outed from his job. There was a guy in the village, Dale, I'm not mentioning last names. If he liked you and you didn't want to do anything with him, he'd actually call your job and say you were gay and call your family.
So people outed other people.
But you didn't out other people. And in those days, you got fired from your job if they told you were homosexual. And in those days, they can evict you, say, I want you out of this building in 1 week. And now you're protected. It takes years. If you don't pay your rent, it takes 3 more years to go to court and everything. But in those days, they actually fired the kids or threw them out. Some committed suicide.
So even though there were a handful of people or more who were out and their families knew, they still didn't have any protections.
Oh, no. We had no rights. We were considered the lowest form of earth. Remember, they always thought that gay people would touch each other and you're going to be gay. And because they thought we were sick, My friend David, his family put him through hell with ice water and everything, and he went crazy. They had to put him away forever. Shock treatments didn't work, you know. Organizations, they were going to turn you straight. That didn't work either. In fact, they had an episode on Will and Grace about that, and it was hysterical.
But it was something that, you know, numbers of people who went through all those experiences.
And some of them are still a little nuts today, but they're alive. But a lot of people never survived those treatments. I was lucky enough that I met gay people. When I was a kid, we didn't know about gay bars. So it was movie house bathrooms, train station bathrooms, places like that. And sometimes you go to a movie, there were 20 people in the audience and 40 in the men's room. This is true, I kid you not, Times Square especially. And I used to actually get sick at work because if I got there before a certain time, it was 25 cents to go to the movie. After 12 noon, it was like 70 cents or something. And then I'd make sure I'd go to enough theaters and I'd get home in time that my mother thought I went to work. And she said, that was work today. You know, I got to tell a story. I forgot to mention that we had a friend named Billy Costulis. He's gone. We called him Nicolani. He would buy roller quarters every day and hit men's rooms on train stations and at changing points. And he'd come home with no nickels. He was the funniest person in the world. You have to go to this one. It's high school kids. You got to go to this one. It's military. You have to go to this one. It's college students. And Billy was one of the funniest and wonderful people we knew. But he lived on train stations.
So was part of that excitement about sex at train stations or movie theaters a search for intimacy because you couldn't do it any other way?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't bring anybody home. You know, I lived with my family and they lived with their family. And in the village in those days, everything was trustworthy. The brownstones, nothing was locked. You can go in the hallway. We actually tiptoed at 2 in the morning and slept and stayed on the roofs. Now you couldn't get in any building in that area. You know, it's ridiculous. But in those days, and the cop cars were a different shape, and they had floodlight. That if we were sitting on the stoop at 4 or 5 in the morning, and the neighbors said we're too loud, they'd come and drive past and put the spotlight on us and tell us to move. And we'd walk around the block or find another stoop. Thank God there was all-night coffee shops that we could hang out in. But
today, people are often looking for relationships. That wasn't really the case then, was it?
No. A lot of people... I had in my lifetime 2 boyfriends. I had Jose Joey for 22 years. I was killed in a car crash in a rainy night, hit by a cab. And then I met Patrick through his cousin who was straight. And him and I became friends. The next thing I know, he moved in with me. I told him you could stay here a month, find an apartment and a job. Almost 14 years later, he decided, you know, to get married to a girl after our relationship. I was very happy for him because he was a Bronx Irish Catholic and kept saying, got to get married, have to have children, got to get married, have to have children. His family hated my guts. At his wedding, I danced with him and his wife, and his father came over, shook my hand and said, thank you for taking care of my son and teaching him life. I was shocked because he wanted to kill me. And the next thing I know, Pat Sr. and I became good friends. And when his father died, I went to a country called the Bronx, to the funeral parlor, and I was sitting in the back, and his whole family, cousins, they all come over and hugged me and shook my hand. I cried a little, you know, because they all knew Pat's lifestyle was. And I think the kids now are like 30 and 28, and I think they're finally figuring out that I was screwing their father. His wife knew, Margot knew. We had to explain our lifestyle to us, and she loved me so much that we'd go shopping together and everything because Pat didn't. He was a fireman at 9/11, the only survivor. 7 of his friends were killed. He survived. And we're still best friends. He lives in a country. He lives down here in Florida, Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie is where the Mets winter.
I have no idea. I'm a Yankee fan.
I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Before the uprising at Stonewall, bars were a place where people organized, Madison Society and others. But it wasn't until after Stonewall that real organization started to be established. The task force being one of the first ones. How did you see, as an insider, as a person working in the bars, how did you see life start to change when these national organizations started to form and people started to take certain things seriously that they really weren't able to take seriously before?
Well, my little group of friends that I met in the city that lived in different boroughs, and we met at Mama's Chicken Rib, a little coffee shop, couldn't care less about organizations. We were too busy being gay. We didn't want to join this. We didn't want to join that. We didn't want to sit down. And the fact is that we just wanted to go to dance at the gay bars, the ones that had dancing, like the night, like Stonewall and Bally Davy had that back room, and my favorite bar, the Fawn. We knew friends that were part of Madison, the lesbians that were part of the Lambda and all that stuff. We couldn't care less, because we had no rights, and they were screaming about rights, but they weren't getting any. So we just couldn't care less. But eventually, as we got older, and different things were happening to the gay community, people joining us, allies, AIDS, things came along, then we started fighting back. And I started joining different organizations. And now, like when Stonewall was raided, for years we denied being there. Because who cares? A bar was raided. I went to jail 20, 30 times for going into gay bars. They raided them at night, threw you in jail. The next day you went before a judge. He'd either say, go home, or call us names, find us. They'd pay the fine for us. And we go back to the bar the next night or the same night. And now, we got gay marriage, people can adopt, everything is falling into place. And I say, I'm too old to get married, I don't want to adopt anybody. I adopt elderly people, like my son Jason, he's 52. He calls me dad, I call him my son.
You didn't do that before?
Oh, no.
And marriage is obviously a significant change. Being able to serve in the military is a significant change. Adoption, forming families. But out of all that experience that you've had since the 60s, maybe the 50s, all the way to now, what is the most significant change for you personally?
Well, I'm lucky. Mostly every job I ever had was in a gay restaurant, a gay coffee shop, or a gay bar. So I had no problems in identifying with the community. Like some people got beat up, some people had to deny it. But my life has been like amazing. I have done more things than most people in my lifetime. Watching the younger generation becoming more involved and getting married and having children, adoption, and everything. I wasn't against it. I just didn't understand it because I don't want to get married. I had two lovers and we lived together and loved each other. But nowadays, a lot of people are getting married because it protects their other half. Because years ago, when somebody lived with somebody for 25 years and they died, the family would throw the other person out, take over the apartment, and that is all stopped now thanks to Edie Windsor, who sued the government. And she was a dear friend. We used to sit in the back room of the Stonewall and gossip, the two of us. And her lover, Judith Windsor, invites me all over to talk. But we had nothing, and now we have everything. And the younger generation are going to think of new things. I can't think of anything else I want, but the younger generation are going to figure out what they want.
But going back to the question, out of everything that has happened, what has touched you the most? Of all the changes?
Well, as I said, everything fell into place for me. My friends, those are most important to me, the people in my lifestyle. Some of them, my friend Johnny Marino, who just died recently, I met him in 1962, and my friend that lives down here, Charity, who works at Lips, we were together at a Halloween party in 1962. I was Frankenstein, they were Tarzan and Sheena, and the next thing we know, we're talking, and the next thing you know, 64 years later, we're still talking to each other. Now we lost Johnny, And I just told you what happened at Charity. And there are people I know as long as that, and I mean very much to me. I've never ended a friendship, which drives people crazy. They said, Tree, he talks about you. No, man, let him. They stop talking, I'll worry. Because every knock is a boost.
So the development of friendships has been really fundamental.
I have been told by people, you have too many friends. And I always told, my mother always said you can never have enough friends. And I have so many straight and gay friends. As I said, I have a bar in my building. I met two 21-year-olds, and they adopted me. Every time they saw me, they had to sit with me and talk to me. And they went home for the season. They'll go back to school. They already text me, we miss you. And these are two straight boys. My friend John and I, another straight friend that I met at a German restaurant with his wife, we were sitting at an outdoor cafe in my neighborhood, and we saw this kid looking at menus. I said, foreigner. And he sat down opposite us. And I just said, hey, where are you from? He went, France. And we started talking to him. And the next thing I know, he told his mother, because I said, by the way, I'm gay, and my friend John's straight. And he said, I told my mother I met an old gay man and a young straight man, and they showed us their neighborhood. And he said, my mother just laughed like crazy. Years ago, his mother would have probably said, don't you talk to that man, you know. But everybody knows now that we have so many allies, thank God for that. In Serbia, some lesbians were telling me they didn't want allies, and everybody was fighting with them. Because the State Department, who wanted to kill me 25 years ago, sent me to Serbia, Kosovo, and Argentina to help them with their gay rights movements.
And what did you do when you were there?
I spoke at their gay and lesbian centers. I was the Grand Marshal in their parades. I ate for free. I drank a lot of good liquor from their countries because I like tasting things. And met a lot of nice friends in our government. I'm still friends with embassy workers in Serbia, and because there's a Serbian restaurant in my area, and he sent me a list of everything I had in Serbian and in English. So when I go to the restaurant, I just show him my phone, and he brings out the food.
What's your favorite Serbian dish?
It's almost like you're Argentina, Brazilian. It's sausages, meats, all kinds of things on French fries. But in Serbia, they were better because in Serbia, they still use trans fat. And they don't use butter. It's red pepper, and it's blended with things, and they put that on their bread, and a white creamy thing like cheeses and milks. Because I asked for butter, and they said, we don't use butter here. And I tried them, and I loved them both. And they had them at the Serbian restaurant on 7th Street. I don't eat vegetables, and I don't eat fish. Nothing healthy.
That is true. You worked in a number of different bars and restaurants.
I worked at Mama's Chicken Rib, and then I worked at 3 bars the last 57 years on the same block. The Ninth Circle is on 10th Street and off Waverly. Julius's is on Waverly. And if you cross the street and turn the corner, Stonewall. I always tell people I work in the Circle because my mom wouldn't let me cross the street by myself. I worked at Julius. I went into Julius's in the early 60s. We had to go through the back door. They didn't like serving homosexuals. They were bartenders that wore aprons, white shirt, and garter belts on a very square place, sawdust on the floor, spittoons. I kid you not. And then when I worked there with Freddie Lutz, the owner, the sawdust was still there. And then I found out why, because Freddie had a rule, if anybody buys you a drink, line it up. Don't put an empty glass there. And he would take a sip and just walk on the floor. I said, you're wasting alcohol. If you don't want to finish the drinks, they already paid for it. The hell with them, you know. But that was his rule.
Out of the 3 places, what were the differences and what were the similarities?
Well, Mama's Chicken was just a regular Greek restaurant. Mama was Greek. Then I worked at the Ninth Circle. My friend was the doorman. I never had a day off in like 4 months. They asked me to cover Monday and Tuesdays. I got $35. And I would sit at the door, and I was working for Manhattan Cable at the time. So as people would come in, I'd say, "Where do you live?" I was selling them cable TV because every time I signed somebody up, I got $15. And I said, "Don't pay the bill." And in about a year, they'll just contact you, say it was my roommate, and he moved, and I'll set you up again. And then the owner, Bobby Krivitz, who was a Carney man, he used to have games of chance at Coney Island and places like that. And a part owner of Max's Kansas City, very famous. Mick Jagger used to hang out there down the Destry. And he said, "Everybody likes you. We're going to try you to be a bartender." I said, "Bobby, I don't drink. I never made a drink." He says, "You're going to learn to do both." And that was literally 57 years ago. And then after that was raided and closed because he didn't pay he paid the police, his son refused. I went to Julius's because two bar owners were taking me out to dinner anywhere I wanted to go because Freddie Lutz wanted me at Julius's and Chuck Dima wanted me at Badlands at the end of Christopher Street. And I said, "No, I knew I was going to go to Julius's. It's a half a block away. Why walk all the way down the block?" So I went there, and then I decided to retire for a while. And I got a phone call from Tony Danner. After New Jimmy's closed, they changed it to Stonewall. They wanted me there. So I went there. I was a bartender, upstairs bar. And then Dominic lost it because he never paid a bill. So then I wasn't working. And the next thing I know is I get a phone call from Kurt Kelly going, "We just took over Stonewall. We're renovating it. We want you back. Nobody else, because you know the history. You know everything. What days do you want?" And I said, "Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I like Sunday brunches." And I said, "I want upstairs and downstairs when I feel like it." He says, "You got it." And then pandemic came. And he said, you want to work? I said, "If I can't talk to somebody because there's plastic here, and I have to make the drink, and the waiter takes it to them, no." And during that time, my knees started bothering me. The next thing you know is I had a knee replacement. And while in physical therapy for my knee replacement, I was at a party, unpacking my suitcase. I fell backwards and broke my back. And now I'm in physical therapy for my back. And once they fix that, I'm going back to work because I'm 85 and I promised to retire at 100.
Which bar would you want to retire from?
Oh, I'm Stonewall, of course. I always tell Kurt, "I'm going to die behind the bar because I want you to clean it up." And he fires me. And by the time I get to the door, he goes, "Get your ass back here."
Who are some of the most colorful people that you have met over the course of a very long and distinguished career?
Well, at Mama's Chicken Rib, a very young Mick Jagger came in with his bodyguard. And at Ninth Circle, Peter Allen used to come in and see me, Waylon Flowers and Madam. And of course, Rock Hudson, we called him Roy. He had salt and pepper hair, very thick glasses, but when he was working, contacts, and they dyed his hair. And when people would say, "Is that Rock Hudson?" we go to Roy. We protected him. He came in with Jim Murray, his friend who owned Max's Kansas City, which was a big thing where Peter Allen performed, the Andrews Sisters. And those are some of the people I served. And then at Stonewall, Ross Matthews used to come in. All of a sudden, President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Peter Buttigieg, whatever his name is. Ted Dancer came in to play pool one day. What's the big female singer star name? The biggest.
Madonna?
No. Oh, she was there.
Beyonce?
No. Taylor Swift came in, did karaoke and sang. Kurt and her got along so. They said she was so friendly and warm. New Year's Eve, 3-4 years ago, I get a phone call from Kurt. "You got to come to the bar. Madonna wants to meet you." I said, "I don't care. I'm having dinner with my friends. I'm in a tuxedo. They're in evening gowns. You got to come." I go, "I can't. I'm eating. I just got the food. You're fired if you don't come." I knew he wouldn't fire me. So I ate as fast as I could. I went. I met Madonna. She was reading a poem she wrote. Then she sang a couple of songs with one of her kids. And then we took some pictures together. And I said, "By the way, Madonna, 35 years ago or more, at a bar called Charlie's West, East Orange, New Jersey, you made your debut. You were wearing black lace and crucifixes all over the place." And she went, Neither one are that old. And she gave me a kiss. And all the Madonna worshipers hated me because she kissed me because she's Madonna, big deal. I met so many people, like, my friends always say, if Pope Francis would walk in, I'd go, hey, Frank, how you doing?
So those are the celebrities, but there must have been other colorful people that you met as well.
Oh, we had crazy, you know, nutsy people that I loved. You know, I shook their hand. I always counted my fingers, you know, just in case. There was a lot. I was in Frankfurt, Germany, and I met Melly Manila, that group that they found out they weren't really singers. And I couldn't stop playing. You know, I met colorful people in every country. My friend Dave that lived in Berlin, he played Zaza in German in Berlin. We used to, this is before the wall came down. We used to go sneak into the border to go to East Germany, but in East Germany, their money was worthless. So we had to buy West German money, East German money at the same price as West, you know. He used to put it under, build bills under his toupee, and we only bought a few dollars worth, and then we'd go in and and we drink and party in East Germany. And they had gay bars in East Germany, owned by the government. Same in Czech Republic. When I went there, it was Czechoslovakia, and it was a gay bar owned by the government.
I guess that was the only way bars existed, was government owned.
I was looking for a drink, and the guy said he gets paid by the government. He don't care if he makes one drink or 10. He was too busy watching television. And they would dance to the very old music. And they were looking at our clothes. And in Spartacus, the gay guide, years ago in Czechoslovakia, it says, if you're ever caught in an alleyway with your pants down, convince the police you're selling your jeans. And they counted our jeans. They counted our Walkman then. That's how long ago. And they made sure our camera, when we left, we had the Walkman, the camera, and all our jeans. It's amazing. You know, the world has changed.
The world has definitely changed.
Places that didn't want us to come, beg us to come visit their countries.
So you have been an ambassador for the LGBTQ community for a number of years.
Well, I never called myself an ambassador. I was the president of Austria at Euro Pride who introduced me as the Stonewall ambassador to the world. And I came out, I have a video of me, you don't see me, you can hear me, 75,000 people. Now, I was in there for Euro Pride. And at the same time, it was World Pride in New York. And I'm telling them there's a gigantic rainbow going from Vienna to New York City. I made a speech. And then I convinced the whole crowd. And all of a sudden you hear me go, 1, 2, 3, and all those people screaming, Happy World Pride Stonewall. And I sent the video to Kurt. He went crazy.
Understandably.
And I'm still in touch with members of parliament there, some people I've met, people that gave me cards from their bar, and I finally went to Vienna, and I walked into one called Alta Maria, and the guy he was shocked to see me walk in, because the last time he saw me was at Stonewall. That's why I always ask for cards if people have them. I think, you never know when I'm going to show up.
It's a great way of meeting people and making friends.
Oh, God. I keep in touch. My friends laugh. I try to keep in touch with almost everybody I ever met. You know, some days with the raining, I pick a country and just go, friends in that country, and I go through them and I hit message, and I get messages. When I go to Cologne, Germany, I'm an honorary member of Ahoy, Stuttgart Ahoy, which is a marching group. They came here once, and I had to make a speech for them at Stonewall, about 100 of them. And they all spoke English, and I'm standing on a little stage, and I'm talking about the history of Stonewall, but I scan a crowd. I always scan a crowd. And I said, I finally go, and if I ever come to Cologne, I just want to make sure I see my future ex-lover over there. And I picked on this kid named Marcus Dudon. And everybody laughed, and he was embarrassed and everything. And when I went to Cologne, I'm being interviewed in the oldest gay bar called The Corner, and he's sitting outside. And I said, there's my future ex-lover. And now they call, excuse me, every New Year's Eve, I get a phone call at 6 o'clock because it's midnight there. And I have no shirt on. My hair's a mess because I'm home. They call me up to wish me Happy New Year. So this year I tricked them. I knew what they're going to do. I put a shirt on, combed my hair when I called. And the head of the organization comes to New York once a year. We meet for drink. I don't want to lose friends. People fascinate me. The more I meet, the happier I am. I don't care who you are, where you're from. If you're nice, I want to know you. If you're not nice, go away. Excuse me. I have an allergy that I have found out down here. I've never had one in New York. Something down here is making my nose run.
It happens to the best of us.
Oh, but look, I always tell the kids, life's too short, enjoy it. Do what you want to do, have the time of your life. If somebody wants to pay for you not to do those things, do it. Until then, tell them to go to hell.
So what are some of those things that you do?
Travel around the world, meet new people, party. My doorman keeps saying, don't you ever stop, because he sees me going in and out sometimes 3 times with different clothes on. I have different parties. I may come out late at night in a tuxedo, because I used to be a critic for the gay magazines and newspapers, for cabaret and theater. So celebrities that perform like Lorna Luft and Lucy Ball, Lucy Arnaz, they comp me their show. I just have to pay for the drinks. And I go see them. We reminisce, because I met Lucy at the Night of 100 Stars at Radio City Musical when Alexander Cohen put on those. It was like 500 stars, but it was called the Night of 100 Stars. Everybody wanted to be seen. It was for Actors Fund. I knew Judy. I met Judy in the gay bars in the 60s, 50s. Judy Garland. And because she used to come into the bars and she would talk to the young people on the street, because she knew that was her fan club. And I met Liza when she was 8. I worked the rock and roll shows. If anybody goes to, you don't have to friend me on Facebook. Go look at my albums. You have pictures of me and Buddy Holly. That's how old I am.
What kind of music do you listen to now?
Everything except hip hop, rap, and acid rock. I have Josephine Baker on my phone, 1925, singing Blue Skies, Alice Faye, Piaf, Carmen Miranda, my favorite singers. I do have Madonna, Lady Gaga, and somebody else that I didn't put on. Like when I go to the office to do things, the other bartenders screw up my phone, they put on this music that I'm listening to, like Chopin 1 minute, and all of a sudden he'll say, I Was Born This Way pops on. I go, oh, I'm going to kill Mel when I see her. I like country. If you call me up and you hear heavy classical, like Beethoven's Ninth, you know I'm dusting and cleaning. If you call up and you hear Patsy Cline, you know I'm a little depressed and I'm just sitting there.
What do you listen to when you're happy?
Everything.
Even Patsy Cline?
No, not Patsy Cline. No. I have friends that my friend in London, Henry Newberry, he won UK's Got Talent. I met him in Vienna, and then we went to the Norwegian consulate, the embassy, I'm sorry, and I walked in and a woman greeted me. She says, I'm Tree, and she goes, oh, so you're Tree. And then the Finnish, Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian ambassadors were there. We had a nice little lawn party, and Henry and I became friends because from England. And the next thing I know is I get a phone call. Come to England. You're bringing the first gay flight back from London to New York City. 283 gay people, drag queens and everything on the flight. I was first class on Virgin Atlantic, and we had a drag show at 35,000 feet. And I love any airplane that has a bar in the middle of the plane. And nobody went to sleep that night because everybody from the last seat were going back and forth. It was so much fun. I met the owner of Attitude Magazine. The next thing I know is I got the Attitude Magazine Award. I had to go to England again. They flew me in Norwegian Airlines, and that's a great airline. And they put me up at the Rosewood Hotel, and they said, we upgraded you to a suite. Instantly, I go on Google, and I find out a suite costs 4,500 pounds a night, and I was there 6 nights. And I had a Jaguar downstairs if I ever wanted to go anywhere. And they said, do you want to bring a date? So I called up Henry Newberry, and he had to go out and get a tuxedo. And we're sitting at a table. On my right was Henry, and then was Dame Joan Collins, Amistad Hogan, who wrote Tales from the Wild Side, Lance Black next to me because he gave me the award, Russell T. Davis, Queer as Folk, and Doctor Who, and other celebrities, and Taron Egerton, who I was in love with from, not Rocket Man, from the Kingsman movies. And I went up, got the award, and Ross Matthews comes running out from stage, gives me a kiss, and looks at the audience and goes, I know him. And in my speech, I said to everybody at the end, which I do, and if you're ever in New York, and you come into Stonewall and I'm working, first drink's on the house, and everybody cheers and screams, and then second drink's double price.
And on that, we're going to end, because that's what you say at the end. So that is great.